bottom. A cheery home with an unusual view. And, Dad, you'll be glad to hear that I make a good salary as a reader for the McMahon Publishing House. We're managing very nicely until I sell my first story and Eileen gets her first break in the theater.
Aren't you finished with that letter yet?
Just about.
Oh, did you give my love to Mom and Dad?
I left a space at the bottom. Why don't you write them a little something yourself?
Well, hurry. You've got to get dressed for dinner.
Since when do we dress to eat the stuff I cook?
You're not cooking tonight. We're invited out to dinner.
You mean you were invited out to dinner, and you said not unless you could find someone for my sister.
No, Ruth, it wasn't like that at all. Frank insisted on bringing along this friend for you.
Eileen, we've been through this blind date routine before.
Oh, but really, Frank insisted.
Who's Frank?
Well, he's a very nice boy.
Well, who is he?
You'll like him.
Well, who is he?
I just told you he's a friend of Frank's.
That's what I mean. Who's Frank?
Oh, didn't I tell you about him?
No, Eileen, you didn't.
Oh, Ruth, he is wonderful. He says that I definitely have a future in the theater.
Eileen, did you read for him?
I didn't have to. He took one look at me and he said, "Kid, you're loaded."
Loaded?
Oh, he meant that he could see I had talent.
Oh, yes, I should have known that. When did you meet him?
This afternoon,
Where?
at the Rogers and Hammerstein audition.
Eileen, do you mean to tell me you accepted a date with an actor you don't even know?
He's not an actor. He's some kind of an executive. He sat so close to Rogers and Hammerstein, he could have touched them.
Really? Both of them?
Oh, come on, Ruth.
Now, your date's not going to want your sister along.
But you'll have your own date.
Now, one look at you and my date won't want your sister along. Besides, I can't go. I promised Mr. Palmer I'd finish this manuscript tonight. Just listen to this trash. She flung herself into Ted's arms, her hungry lips seeking his kisses. At last, the moment of... Maybe I better start back a little earlier. She flung herself into Walter's arms, her seeking lips hungry for his kisses. And then they both... She flung herself into Nathan's arms. This kid's quite an athlete.
Maybe you ought to start on page 1.
Maybe you're right. Chapter 1. It was her 6th birthday. Well, that sounds safe enough. How the candles on her cake gleamed. "I'll be 6 tomorrow," said Tommy. She flung herself into Tommy's arms. Oh. And that's the kind of stuff that sells.
Ruth, maybe if you spiced up your stories.
Okay, Eileen, you win. I'll fling myself into the arms of the first man who comes along.
Is anyone home?
I'm sorry I said that.
Mr. Speedback, when are you going to fix the lock on that door?
Ladies, you must not be embarrassed. The landlord sees many things.
With your technique, how can you miss?
Besides, to me, you are more than just tenants. I want you to think of me as your father.
I don't even like to think of you as our landlord. Mr. Speedback, I'd like to remind you that 3 weeks ago you promised us new drapes for that window. You remember that?
I'm just a poor landlord. How can you expect me to put money out if no money comes in?
Oh, but you see, I can fix that. Just so happens I have the check for the rent right here.
Oh, is it the first of the month?
Yes, it is.
It had completely slipped my mind.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Well, here's the check.
Here's your receipt. Oh, I almost forgot. This came for you today.
Another one of my stories rejected. Eileen, maybe you're right. Maybe I should...